Welcome to our distinguished guests to the 2022 Women in Transport Conference. This conference, being the 5th annual gathering, is organized by Flone Initiative,
a women-led charitable trust that works to design and implement interventions in public transport, conduct interventions, and also conduct research in this field and organize inclusive dialogues and trainings that promote skill building, idea sharing, and learning to inspire new solutions to transport challenges.
I want to thank Flone Initiative and its organizers for having the World Bank opening the 5th annual Women and Transport in Africa conference, a conference that has become a flagship event to generate and share knowledge and practices of how women experience transport in Africa.
We know that transport systems in cities do not sufficiently cater to women's needs. And it is all over the world. It's not a particular country or it's not a particular region.
Public transport needs to be available, and therefore it needs to connect the majority of the citizens to the city. Public transport needs to be accessible and affordable, and therefore it needs to be safe and secure for all, not just a few. It needs to be inclusive, and therefore it must not leave anyone behind or exclude anyone, and make the necessary arrangements for people with disabilities, for children, for pregnant women, and the elderly or the not so young anymore. It needs to be based on human rights and equity, and therefore it must be non-discriminatory. It must be safe, and it must be able to provide decent working conditions for those that are actually providing the transport to the citizens.
Do we really understand who the users of the system are? Knowing as women are a significant market share of public transportation, much more than men, why is it we are still planning or hearing from the authorities that the planning of public transportation is not taking care of the needs of women, particularly mobility of care, safety and affordability, and of course, the travel time ratios.
The Women and Transport Africa Conference is Flone Initiative's movement building mission, and it aims to bring together stakeholders to work out what is our shared future in transport, why it matters, what are the drivers of change, and how we can build a public consensus that we can sustain over time.
The expansion of public transport also strengthens green and decent work opportunities for women in transport, including the chance to shift from precarious or informal work into formal employment.
Our industries, we are informal, kwa hivyo hatuna kitu ambacho inaweza onyesha kwamba tunalipwa monthly. But wakati ambapo tulijoin WIT, we created an association, na with the table banking tumeweza kuwa tunapeana loans within ourselves.
When we met Flone, we started on temple banking, and first we registered the group. The group was quite big, so we registered into 2 groups. Then we started table banking, which is doing very well.
Ladies in this industry, we are discriminated because of our gender. People think that women cannot drive, cannot do this and this and this. And yet we are capable of doing everything.
There is no equity. We have more or less, depending on the scenario, but we have more or less the same offer. But this is not the how we must proceed, because each of us have different needs. So we need a different offer.
Women are underrepresented. Transport sector is male dominated, and women have no space there.
60.7% of girls between 12 and 17 indicated that they have experienced some form of violence in public space. Around the world, more than 60% of women have already said that they have experienced harassment in public spaces. And of course, public spaces are totally related to public transportation.
Given the transport industry is so male-dominated, most employers and governments have paid little or no attention to the needs of women workers in terms of
a lack of maternity rights, long working hours, poorly designed vehicles and uniforms, wage inequality, exposure to violence and sexual harassment, and inadequate facilities, including safe access to decent sanitation facilities.
People don't understand you. Maybe you're boarding a matatu, then they start asking, who will pay your fare? Who are you with? People tend to see or think that you cannot think on your own.
I face insults. Of course, there are unsolicited comments as you cycle, people catcalling, giving comments, others even running after you.
I would also appeal to traffic officers and municipal askaris to be kinder to women. So when women get into this industry and they are harassed, especially by Kanju, they are scared, and most of them leave the industry.
The mobility we need is a mobility that is efficient, that is safe, that is sustainable, and that is inclusive.
We need to institutionalize it so that becomes the new norm. And for that, we need to definitely have a comprehensive framework for gender disaggregated data collection. We need to mandate the collection and analysis of gender data. And we need to set up gender strategies within transport agencies to ensure that there's representation of women at all levels.
Alternative urban futures and spaces are imagined and created with the active involvement and participation of transport workers, unions, and marginalized groups in the transformation of our cities. They must be safe. All citizens can live and work in the city, and public transport is a space free of violence, harassment, or abuse.
I would highly encourage you focus how to get more women into the transport sector. Number 2, how to have these women, we retain them. So we need to have that strategy on how to grow ourselves and be productive in the sector.
But I really want to stress that it cannot be done exclusively and successfully by only transport stakeholders. More and more intersectional collaboration is needed with the ministries of gender, education, health, employment, and with civil society organizations doing key work on the matter and collecting data as Flone initiative.
And thanks to Flone and other partners, we are actually able to fill those partnerships with life. So we look forward to what such collaborations, including the cooperation with Flone, could yield in supporting the work around a just city and especially creating impact.
It's been enlightening, it's been amazing, it's been eye-opening. And not just that, when it comes to women in transport, we need to take these particular opportunities that are presented our way. And Flone is doing an amazing job in trying to make sure that Africa has a beautiful working transport system, public transport system, and especially that is convenient for women.
Thank you.